Hey, Remia, welcome to the Deep Dive.
Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you on today.
Yeah.
Um, for our listeners who might not know, you're a student at Centennial College in the Construction Project Management program.
Yes, that's right.
And you've been doing some really fascinating research on this Colombian building technique
Uh-huh.
called Bahareque.
Yeah, it's called Bahareque.
I'm really excited to kind of dig into this with you.
I'm excited to share.
Are you familiar with this at all?
Oh, yeah. Bahareque. It's a fascinating method. It's a really great example of how ancient wisdom can offer solutions for modern problems,
Right.
especially when we talk about sustainable building.
Yeah, and Remy, you've been, looking at how Bahareque uses all these natural and locally sourced materials
Yeah.
like bamboo and cane and mud and clay and straw.
It's incredible.
It's really like building a house straight from the earth.
Yeah, and that's what makes it inherently eco-friendly, right?
Mm.
Like, think about the environmental impact of producing steel or concrete. This is a world apart.
And it's not just some ancient technique either.
Hmm.
Remy, you found that it played a big role in Colombia's history even during the coffee boom era.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a relic of the past.
Wow.
Remy's research shows that it was widely used even in relatively recent times.
Yeah, and that really makes you think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we often associate progress with,
Hmm.
these modern materials.
Yeah,
But here's Bahareque standing strong throughout history.
exactly. And it begs the question,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of structures were built using Bahareque during that time?
Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Well, that's where I think the cultural significance of Bahareque really shines through. You see it evolved from indigenous practices
Oh.
and then blended with colonial architecture.
Oh.
So you'll find it in all sorts of buildings, from rural homes to churches to grand city houses.
And you even mentioned towns like Manizales that feature beautiful Bahareque buildings.
That's right. Manizales is a great example.
So it's not just a practical method, it's part of the cultural landscape.
Absolutely. It's woven into the fabric of Colombian heritage.
And speaking of practicality, I was really struck by how Bahareque is so well suited for earthquake-prone regions.
Ah, yes, the flexibility of those materials.
Yeah, like bamboo and clay compared to rigid concrete.
It's almost like a natural shock absorber.
Right.
And in a country like Colombia with its seismic activity, that's a huge advantage.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you wonder why this incredibly resilient and sustainable building method ever fell out of favor.
It does make you wonder, like, why did we move away from something that's seemed to work so well?
Right.
And I think it might have something to do with this idea of a material myth.
Material myth.
Yeah, this notion that Remy has been talking about, that modern materials equal progress, even if they're not necessarily better suited for the environment or even for safety, as you pointed out.
It's like we got dazzled by the shiny and new and forgot the value of what we already had.
Yeah, it's almost like we got blinded by the allure of the new.
Exactly. And that unfortunately led to some pretty unfortunate outcomes.
Yeah, how so?
Well, imagine replacing flexible earthquake-resistant Bahareque with rigid structures, potentially making them more vulnerable to seismic activity.
It's almost like we took a step backward in terms of safety and resilience.
It's real irony, isn't it?
Yeah, and tragically, some historic Bahareque buildings have even been demolished due to this perception.
A real loss of heritage.
It is a shame, but I'm really glad that Remy is bringing this to light.
Me too.
This isn't just about preserving a building method. It's about reclaiming a part of history and recognizing the value of traditional knowledge.
Absolutely.
And what I find really exciting is that Remy doesn't just stop at identifying the problem.
Right.
He actually proposes a solution, industrializing Bahareque.
Industrializing Bahareque. Now, that's a fascinating idea. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, Remy, I'd love to hear more about how you envision that working.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? It really does check so many boxes, right?
Yeah.
Sustainable, resilient, and connected to Colombian culture. What I find particularly fascinating is how your research, Remen, links this traditional method to modern needs, especially in affordable housing. That's a global challenge, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like Bahareque could offer some valuable solutions there.
Yeah, it's like we're always looking for these high-tech solutions to modern problems.
Right.
But sometimes the answers are right there in front of us, hidden in plain sight.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the materials themselves.
Yeah.
It's about the whole approach to construction,
Okay.
Bahareque it encourages community involvement, local sourcing, a deep respect for the environment.
Mm-hmm.
These are principles we can and should be applying in modern construction no matter where we are in the world.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And we're seeing this growing movement towards sustainable building practices here in Canada as well.
Yeah,
It's all about lessening our environmental impact, using locally sourced materials, creating healthier living spaces.
absolutely.
Do you see any parallels between what's happening here and the potential of Bahareque in Colombia?
Well, tons of parallels.
Yeah.
You touched upon this in your research. REMIS regulations and community involvement are key
Okay.
to driving the adoption of these eco-friendly building practices.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Canada, we have building codes and certification programs
Right.
that incentivize sustainable construction.
Yeah.
And just like with Bahareque, there's this growing awareness of the importance of using local resources,
Yeah.
supporting local
It
economies.
really is all connected, isn't it?
It is.
Like this global shift in thinking, a realization that we need to move away from these resource-intensive practices
Yeah,
and embrace a more holistic, sustainable approach to building.
exactly.
And the exciting thing is we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
We can learn from these traditional methods,
right.
like Bahareque, adapt them, integrate them into modern designs.
That's the beauty of it. It's not about romanticizing the past, but about recognizing the wisdom embedded in these time-tested practices and finding ways to make them relevant for the future.
Sure.
And I think Remy's on the right track here, exploring how policies and incentives can create an environment where these sustainable building practices can truly flourish.
Yeah, Remy, when you first told us about your research on Bahareque, I have to admit I wasn't sure what to expect.
Uh-huh.
But this deep dive has been truly eye-opening.
It has.
You've brought this fascinating building method to life,
Yeah.
showcased its history, its potential, the valuable lessons it holds for the world.
It's a testament to the fact that innovation doesn't always have to be about the latest technology or the most expensive materials. Sometimes the most innovative solutions
Yeah.
are the ones that are right in front of us, deeply rooted in tradition and local knowledge.
Well said.